America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any conflicts of interest with today's agenda? Agenda approved as written, reading of the minutes.
June 17, 2025, the Board of Supervisors met at 9 AM with Dave Mulbauer, Chair, presiding members present, Schultz, Dozark, Mulbauer, and Rossberg, member absent, Hayden. Minutes of the previous meeting were read and approved. The board approved clerk of court fees for April 2025. The board approved change of wages for the recorder's office, motor vehicle, driver's license, treasurer's department, conservation department, solid waste agency, Louise Galbraith, Veterans Affairs and General Relief, Zach Rasmussen, Emergency Management Coordinator, Sheriff's Office, Custodians, Tracy Dietz, Appraiser, Admin Assistant, Assessor's Office. The board approved the hiring of Noah Helpier, Seasonal Attendant, Conservation Department. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Rossberg, to approve the following resolution, 2025-25. Appropriation increase of 4,000 to the auditor's department, and a 4,000 decrease in appropriation to the supervisor's department. Let's see, voting aye, Schultz, Dozark, Mulbauer, and Rossberg. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Rossberg, seconded by Dozark, to approve the renewal of the Nova 4 contract for 1 year. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Dozark, seconded by Schultz, to approve the following resolution. 2025-26. That Benjamin W. Shaben, the county engineer of Crawford County, be and is hereby designated, authorized, and empowered on behalf of the Board of Supervisors of said county to execute the certification of completion of work and final acceptance thereof in accordance with plans and specifications in connection with all farm to market and federal or state aid construction projects in this county. Voting aye, Schultz, Dozark, Mulbauer, and Ross. Motion passed unanimously. Motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Dozark, to approve the agreement and highway safety improvement program, local federal aid swap program. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Rossberg, to approve the revised employee job description for Kathy Meadows, regular part-time position as assistant to the engineer, administrative operations. Motion passed unanimously. At 10:02 AM as advertised, a motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Rossberg, to open the public hearing regarding a budget amendment for fiscal year 24-25. Motion passed unanimously. There were no written or oral objections. A motion was made by Dozark, seconded by Rossberg, to close the public hearing at 10:03. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Rossberg, seconded by Schultz, to approve the following resolution, 2025-24. Appropriations to departments. And that was to the sheriff's department, $64,810. Voting aye, Schultz, Dozark, Mulbauer, and Rossberg. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Dozark, to approve vacation buy down to 10 days and comp payout considerations for Ben Shaven. Transition to engineer July 1, 2025. Motion passed unanimously. On motion, duly seconded, board adjourned 10:18 AM. Agendas for the next meeting are posted and available at the courthouse on Friday, 4:30 PM, preceding the next meeting.
Any corrections or comments? Hearing none, minutes are approved. Yeah, I need that for on the agenda. Supervisor reports, Scott.
Well, we were at the gravel summit last Wednesday. I thought that was, the first session was kind of over my head.
Yeah, that was
an engineer deal. A lot of equations and stuff of that nature, so I didn't get much out of that part of it, but overall, I think it was fairly good. The question and answer session at the end was always, I thought, the best. That's when the most stuff pertinent to our area gets discussed. You know, but they did bring some good information from Haynes. Like I said, most of it was over my head, so it's really.
I think it was Professor, it was Doctor for the first part that really got into the calculations, and I mean, they had all the different data points in it.
And these are the people that actually use algebra and calculus after high school, you know, so. Yeah, you know, I even asked Ben if he understood that. He's, well, it's been a while since I've seen those equations, but I did recognize them, so. But, yeah, I mean, they've been doing a lot of data collecting and trying to make our engineering jobs easier with trying to find the best grade of gravel and best mixture of gravel.
And they had some different resources. I thought that was good. The
Yeah.
computer programs, you can put in what you have for,
What you get out of your pits or
Yeah.
quarries and punch it in, and it'll tell you the mixture that they recommend, and they've developed all this since our last gravel summit, so.
And are we currently using that, those formulas
I
or?
think they're just kind of, they just found out about it.
Okay.
yeah. So it was good education for all the engineers there.
They're still doing research.
Yeah.
Did they talk much about their plans for, you know, what they're hoping to find on our research trip?
They talked about it, but, you know, they had some theories, but they're just gonna try to let it play out. I went and drove it this morning and. Yeah, it's
One-
better.
They had formulas for like, remember when he was talking about the strength of the rock versus the elasticity versus the, you know,
Yeah.
all the different things that you want to come up with that gradation.
So what they're doing out there is going into the data that they're collecting.
Yep, they'll use what they're collecting off our test strip, and they'll put that towards their data to modify their equations and.
Such as how long it lasts. And are they they're doing the road count out there down, how many vehicles are driving over it?
I didn't see no road counters out there this morning, but I know they're gonna keep track of how much material they put on and how often they blade the sections and stuff of that nature was their.
I think a count would be kind of good to know and how many, you
I
know,
would imagine maybe they just use the average traffic count that they have on file. As,
They did have a machine that goes and tests the strength of the gravel road. They,
is that Tama County they did that? They
Yeah.
Actually had they put sensors under, I don't know how deep they were, but they could tell what size loads are going over them and how often and.
and I'm assuming the equation tells you what the cost of that is versus the other. That's one of the big equations, I bet, and this cost is what we care about.
and we talked a lot about the challenges of acquiring aggregate and gravel and
Yeah, I made note that Crawford County is kind of situation, you know, where what we pay is for our materials is probably one of the highest in the state.
We're in a White Rock desert.
We're just in a desert completely as far as granular material, so.
Unless we want to take to the core of the earth.
But at some point, in time, it's gonna be cost effective to start digging deep.
You're right.
that's the one speaker, he was an engineer up in what, northeast Iowa?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he said they thought it was terrible if they had to go 5 miles to a gravel pit.
Yeah.
This
He said that 3 of
transportation,
them within 5 miles, they were fighting over their business, so.
Did you tell them those are fighting words here? They're complaining about that.
He said they would literally pull into one gravel pit and the other one would call him, why your truck's going there? We'll give you 50 cents off. Okay, we'll go there then.
Well, that'd be terrible, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
and what we cost, what we pay just to get it here is, you know,
yeah, we spent $3 million a year, granular maintenance.
It was good turnout, good information.
Yep,
and fortunately, it's not a product that we can choose to just do without. It's just not an option
Gotta have
to
it.
not have our roads taken care of.
but by having these, I think it's, you know, I just thinking back to our first one, the stuff we tried and implemented now that will hopefully save us some of this cost. The more we talk about it, the more educated our engineer, that crew get and bring it to us and.
The more
I'm
efficient
really
we are.
hoping like our subgrade stabilization projects pan out. and are improved long-term to eliminate having to deal on the heavier volume roads. You know, having to, you know, like the one we're testing now, eventually, I think we need to do that because all the school bus traffic on it, it's always a water. If we could do that, that's potentially a cash saver long-term, plus it gives us a better road day to day.
Yeah, what gentleman was said they did one of those, and he said they haven't touched it for 30 years.
Really?
I mean, just think about the cost savings there. I mean, it costs a little bit more upfront when you ain't gotta mess with it for 10 years would be
You
nice.
know, other than
Yeah. Other
the
than
sealer every
Seal.
couple years or whatever, but he suggested we do the auto seal even over what we're doing now.
That's what they were talking about in Washington, if I was down there too. They do that auto seal.
Cause it's, what he said, it's less gravel, more tar, so it keeps it sealed up better, keeps the moisture out of it. Which,
Yeah, Jerry, the one guy was saying if you have roads with potholes, that means you don't have enough crown or water sitting, we can't get away.
Can't get away.
no, I thought that went well. I'm sure Barry, Tim and Ben
Got a lot out of it.
got a lot of it, so.
Good.
The other thing is, went up Cherokee Friday. Pretty much business as usual up there, just no major breakouts or anything this time to report, but. One of our attendees did tear up one of their cars, so like broke the door, ripped the headliner down, so,
Crawford County?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Had a tantrum.
Well, yeah, it was. Non-prescription drug related. And, I think they're better now, but at the time they were superhuman strength, I think, so.
How would that happen? If they're actually driving down the road?
Yes, it did. It started to, yeah.
And so are there two people in the car or you just have the driver? Do they have a?
Luckily, they weren't far away from Denison yet, so the transporter automatically immediately called our sheriff's
That would
department
be scary.
and came back.
Do your cars have, so see, some of the cars do have, like Central Iowa uses, I think a lot of them have, that are for that are for transporting the juveniles. They have barrier there.
All cars have a cage and it keeps the driver.
Central
kept
Iowa
it from-
does other types of
Yeah.
transportation too.
Jumping over and hurting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in that short period of time, they did all that damage, just
Mhm.
not even that far out of Denison and.
Yeah, I forget what it said they took, how many deputies took.
Really?
Just superhuman strength, you know.
Possibly like what age would that be? 18,
Younger than that,
younger?
Yeah,
younger
Wow.
than 18.
And it was one of our Crawford County.
Yeah.
if they're 18, they're adult, they're not going to Mark.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Female.
Wow.
It was a female?
So I don't know, I don't think we'll see a bill for that, but I think they're gonna try to make you a quarter restitution deal on that, so.
So then did we keep her in our jail here? What?
They did, I think they, for a time period to where that edge was off. Then transported. So.
Get her calmed down.
mhm.
It's terrible, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep.
But. And they are actually working on, they're gonna start having their own kitchen and cooking their own meals. Cause MHI, been charging them what, $13 a meal. And they're the last ones on the list to get fed, so the portions are small and the money they're gonna save, they're paying for their own kitchen, and we'll be able to hire another staff to monitor. So,
It was probably a peanut butter sandwich.
a lot of times it was, yeah, if they run out of food,
Right.
serving Cuso and then mental health, they just, we'll just slap a sandwich on. So,
That's just, yeah. Kids that already think society's forgot about them, they're getting it proven to them.
yeah, so I think that's a good deal, start cooking their own meals, so. And that hopefully a staff member will do dual service, you know, be an extra help during the day if needed, you know, on the floor, so.
So about how many would they be cooking for, just?
They had 12 kids in there Friday, so they averaged 10.7 for a month, so
Are they full?
I think 15's full, so pretty close. Summer months are usually it's hit and miss, be full and then empty. So that's about all that happened there. But I
Sounds
was,
like a lot.
things we did that, I just, when Terry was reading the minutes about the comp time buy down. Is Amy able to report, pull a report on, see how we are, we, or are we, I don't know, I just
Where?
put the comp time, cause of some of our, do we do that at the first day?
Yeah.
Is that at the first of July we should have that, or is it at their anniversary? It should be at the first of the year, right? Should check that to see how far we're off.
Yep. We'll get one.
That's something. We had full discussion with Ben, that, you know, we're not gonna pay his comp time at his new salary. You know, every year, we just approve new wages and that and comp time should be bought down. I'm thinking we probably got some that are not within,
We always do.
yeah. So,
I think that should happen.
probably look
In
in
the last
last
page, you know, so that way it's always the pay that you earned it on,
right,
you know,
yep,
otherwise that's a nice savings account.
oh, hell, yeah,
If you let it be that,
yeah.
savings account with interest.
I don't know how many years ago it was we did that, some of them were over $300. So that takes time to accumulate that, so you know, they didn't do that. But they earned it.
Yeah, I think so. Every year that should be
Just automatic,
June 30th.
but we
get
also
your
have to
pay.
be aware that the budget crisis this first time could actually put us in, I don't know what them numbers are gonna be, but it could be a bigger payout. Maybe not. Maybe it's just possible.
Is that everything?
Yep.
Craig did want me to report for him. I talked to him yesterday on the phone. The IT interviews,
Oh, yes.
and then we reported that. So you don't see
Yes.
through your thing, but he said he thought they went very well. Thought there was a candidate that really stood out.
I was not, I was gone.
Oh, you were gone for
I was gone for I was at the meeting where we decided we would interview, but I was not.
So he just thought that, a good group to interview. And he did say that, yeah, there was one that was,
Are you still doing Fridays?
I don't know what he did say. Friday's interview.
Mhm. I guess, yeah.
I suppose so. He just said to report that there was one that he thought was really good and they were, well, probably gonna interview him again.
Did he mention if they were leaning towards
Hiring.
hiring?
Yes. You were part of the interviews? No.
We had picked a smaller group like we a lot of times do because
Was it Craig and Martha?
Craig and Martha. I believe that was it.
And then,
This week.
what's his name, Carol?
Oh, and
yes,
Dalton.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Well, and he said too, and I'm glad you brought that up. He said it was really nice having Dalton there because he could really
Tech question.
Right,
hone into what an IT for a county is, what they do, and could ask those questions.
right.
And
Good plan.
he said, he got the point, Dalton said to the one guy, well, I'm gonna ask you questions, you know, about everything I know, you know?
That's, yeah. We had just decided that to get the whole group together and have so many different questions that we would respect the opinions of the smaller group because just less invasive for the person, 5 people.
Too many cooks.
Yeah,
So that's moving forward and
yeah. And, you know, when we had the massive applications, we kind of did maybes for sure, you know. And of the ones that we all agreed, there were some that everyone agreed on that we needed to interview, and they were very impressive, but IT is an animal that a lot of people don't understand, and to ask those questions and make sure we're asking the right questions and not to somebody that had any jobs.
Well, Craig should say that, the sentiment around the county and just having a full-time IT person there. And then, like I said, Corey's doing a great job. It really is. But they're just kind of leaning towards hiring somebody to do the budgeting process, and planning and
There is a little bit, Corey's guys have done a great job.
and then that's what he said. Corey has done fantastic.
No complaints from anyone as far as getting things set up, public health is almost officially completely in the new building. They will be closed. Go ahead and finish yours.
No. He just also with that, he said, if we do end up hiring somebody, I think it's fair to sit down with Corey and just talk to him about the transition and even down the road, if there's bigger projects that Corey can plan for as well on his end. Right. And then as far as, I guess you covered IT or the gravel summit, that was great. I did have a call from Jared Anastasia, which we told you guys about. Secondary roads guys were wondering if they could wear shorts. We called Wade Weiss this morning because they do not allow that policy. I did talk to Ben a little about it, so we can talk about it when he comes up. But there's some, won't get it, it's hot, but there's some liability things to
I think
discuss.
so too.
I also wanted to bring up the truck with Ben again, see where that's at, Paul's truck. So we can talk to him about that when he's here. I got it written up down, so. Otherwise, that's all I got.
It was a short week because I was, a little family vacation, but we are making great progress at public health. They are going to close, Friday and Monday to get everything finished up. Police was in there on Saturday morning. I met up there so they could finish a few of the smaller details that they can't do when everybody's in there. It's starting to really look like an office space. The girls seem very happy. I talked to Paulette. Things are going very, very well over there. DHS did have a meeting of their supervisors and they used that bottom space and it was a lot of compliments on how nice it was and how nice that worked for Denison to be a central location for that. Very well attended. I hear there were cars, parked in different places. So we really do need to get our handicap spots painted. And that was, we talked about that earlier, just so that when the veterans are still coming, if they are having to function, that they can still find a place to park close by. But that's coming also. And otherwise, I have meetings tomorrow morning. Will be my Zoom meetings with the early childhood handicap, those things. So it's a kind of quiet week, actually. Unless somebody mentions something I forgot to mention.
I'll be curious what they say in your ECI meeting, about the changes in our state board meeting, and I did not like the previous change. Now they're wanting, it's still HHS and Kelly Garcia, they're pushing, they want 7 districts.
Yep, yeah.
I just totally feel like that defeats the purpose of what ECI is, but we still want, and it's funny because it's just like behavioral health, we still want all the local input, we need the local input. Well, why are you taking our boards like that? It's advisor.
It has never made sense to me, and the further we get into it, it's still none of those questions have been answered to my satisfaction.
And I get there's certain ECI areas that have joined because of, southern tier counties, 3 of them or 4 of them, because it made sense. They could pool their resources, but it was done on them bringing it together, not here you're gonna force everybody to have to go to 7 districts.
Must be the buzzword, because last Monday at the Brennenberg deal, I'm talking Tim Zink, and they're looking 911, they're trying to start that in the districts now. Where our dispatch could be coming out of.
I just,
Regional.
taking away all
When I
the
was down there in
local-
Washington County, they were actually talking about that. That's why they built their new comm center with banks.
Must be the buzzword.
It's the buzzword, but I just don't know
Is that a good idea though?
when bigger is ever better, as far as taking away local. I've said it since day one and I'm still
Well, I think it's intended to save money because you got one center handling a larger area, but then you lose. I mean, I don't think that can apply to everything, do you?
No,
When you're looking
no,
at something that
no.
deals with individuals or, you know, using your example, the comm center, don't you want somebody sitting there that knows your county? Or your area?
Yeah. one
Yeah.
thing.
It ain't, you know, I mean, it'd be like, you know, having Monona County in charge of, you know, I mean, obviously Woodbury County is gonna be, you know, I mean, you're really, I don't think that's a good idea.
To me, it always seems like too, when we go to bigger districts. Yes, we get it, you're trying to save money and put it all together, but it always seems like. The funds then just go to the biggest urban areas in that district. And if it's
And then that's
nothing,
where
everything
everything's
is us
focused
hanging
too.
out here.
Yeah. See, like for us, the regional would probably be in Sioux City, and then you start, the further away you are, the less concerned they are about you, and what's going on there. At least that's been our experience, right?
Yeah, if you have locally, people know the area or know who to get a hold of, or I mean, for whatever reason, you know, mental health or whatever, the local people like, yeah, you gotta call so and so. You don't get you in touch with the right people or whatever, you know, just, you lose that once it's. But that must have been something that the state decided we're just gonna regionalize everything.
And I'm sure it's cost savings is their driving motivator, because that's been the focus, in particular, our governor is trying to make everything cost effective.
It's one of those things that always looks good on paper, but when it rubber meets the road.
Practical
it has-
application gets to be a little bit of a challenge,
Yeah.
right, Cal?
I've not liked it since the beginning. I started liking it. There's just nothing we can do about it. That's the unfortunate thing. There's no matter how many advisor meetings you have, no matter how many people put in their concerns, it still comes back to the same, this is what we're gonna do. So,
We've watched you struggle with this for 3.5 years now, 3 years.
I think I'm about over it because there's just nothing.
Don't ever give up on the people.
Well, I have not, but if somebody called me and said, who do I call after July 1st?
We don't know. And that's awful
Yeah.
close now.
Yes, yes. So,
Hopefully something comes out quick.
we'll know maybe more tomorrow. I don't know.
Well,
Okay, is that everything?
Yes.
Hi.
I got a few things. Did get a call about the dog thing. I kind of talked with you about that earlier, Dave. Nothing too crazy, just I explained what we're up to. They were happy about that. I was at an event last night and I got to a corner. Well, actually, he explained it a little bit publicly first, so then I went up and asked him a little bit more. Mr. Schultz, or Senator Schultz, gave me a little bit of a detail why he voted against what Steve and them put out of the house. And we actually are, we're actually part of the conundrum in Crawford County, which I found to be very interesting. And I'll explain it to you as best I can. It'd be better for coming from him, but because this is secondhand. Do you remember the first time we tried to create an ethanol plant and there was all them investors? I remember because I think Les was getting some money into it, if I remember right. So that would have been in the 90s, maybe?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
Okay, and they wanted to build it close to IVP at the time. I think it was still IVP at the time. And because IVP wanted to use the carbon to pull off of the ethanol plant to run their coolers. Makes great sense, right? And they were gonna need a pipe to do that. Well, to get that pipe done, I don't know if it was gonna be eminent domain stuff or whatever, there was an actual bill made and passed down at the House and Senate and signed by the governor to authorize that. But there was no guardrail specifying what that was about, because it was really for an independent project. Well, then that got carried over because there was nothing that restricted it. It actually includes carbon pipelines, period. Now, I'm sure there's more detail to this than I'm like, but it gives you an idea of where that original thing come from. And then it kind of applies to us in the same regard as remember when we were dealing with the wind turbines down in southeast part of the county? And Scout Energy had already started the process, so they wanted to make sure that we weren't gonna go back and basically all their money was going to waste. They wanted to have some kind of a written agreement where this would exclude them. And that's what the same thing that Summit could do. So it was gonna be in a lawsuit. And any way you looked at it, if we'd have passed this, because he then has got an opportunity to go recover. I mean, he's kind of pigeonholed right now. Can't go through South Dakota, can't go through Minnesota. And I say Summit.
Right.
Can't go through South Dakota, can't go through Minnesota, and I don't know, there was another obstacle out there with whether it was something in Wyoming or whatever, it doesn't matter, but was gonna be too cost impaired, which is gonna cost too much to do that, I guess. But in any event, he's a good businessman, he'd be obligated to try to recoup his costs. If we pass a law that says that, you can't build or you can't use eminent domain now, when in fact there was already a law when he started the project that said he could, after he went through the whole process. So that was the complicated part. Senator Schultz made the comment that, we're trying to make sure that we don't end up with the same thing that Colin comes and reminds us frequently, you don't want to end up in a lawsuit. So I think that was probably the Senate's big sticking point. Well, obviously Steve, Representative Holt made his comments, where were you for 4 years with us? 3 years, where we were trying to get stuff done. Why weren't we working on something to help landowners? And so not to try to make this into a debate at our table, I just wanted to give you a little bit more context.
Gives a little insight.
Yeah,
But couldn't they grandfather them in? Kind of the deal, could that, sometimes.
well, I mean, I think that was, but it wasn't in that, what is it, 369?
But couldn't they just made a
Cindy's on
revision
here.
to it and grandfathered and said, that's why they did it, so they can review it and make changes. They could have grandfathered, the people that have already, it's like we do sometimes grandfather things in.
Well, and that's the
House
thing,
File 639.
639.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks.
So anyway, that just gives us a little more context for a little bit more understanding, and it kind of helps you in your rulemaking process to make sure whenever we're making ordinances, since we're gonna be doing stuff like that, we're talking about it today. Make sure that you don't leave something so vague that you end up paying, your citizenry ends up paying penance for what your mistakes were in the past, you know what I'm saying?
But Representative Holt rebuttal to that was that should have been brought forward.
Yeah, I can't remember, like Steve really didn't say much because he'd already spoke for the evening. And, he did come back and make some comments, but it was more, why weren't you and the governor trying to help us come up with a solution, basically? And that's, that's really the first time I've ever seen them two at odds on anything major. So, they were very civil about it, but, I think that was an interesting factoid that basically it stemmed from Crawford, was kind of part of the reason that this has been such a sticker for us,
Cindy had a comment, but it got cut off.
Somehow she wouldn't be here for citizens input is all I
I
got.
read food for thought.
Okay. Okay, well, in any event, I don't know,
You think Michelle could see the comment?
she might be able to see it on her.
I don't know. Cindy, we didn't see your comment. You go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, food for thought, Summit did not sue South Dakota after they passed 1052, how many months ago? So I understand Senator Schultz's logic on it. However, if Summit was gonna sue, they would have sued South Dakota because they are pivotal for that pipeline. So just food for thought.
That's a great point.
Thanks, Cindy.
We're still just trying to gather clues, ma'am.
They may not have that particular law on books, South Dakota, but
Yeah. See, with
I don't know.
that little law that kind of snuck up on us there that made it legal to use eminent domain for this.
yeah.
I mean, it was just basically a quick run through. And they actually asked me, if Did you, was Grandpa Louis ever down at the State House? He was?
Yep.
I wonder if he was around on this, because they thought maybe somebody that had a tie here might have been the one that initiated that.
Grandpa was in the house for 10 years, late 80s, 90s.
Well done.
Could easily have been him that had that. I mean, I'm not trying to fault him here. I mean,
Right.
there's always unintended consequences to
Probably
everything.
trying to just get that, no.
Trying to get that
Probably,
ethanol
yeah.
plant taken care of, you know, which was gonna help our farmers along. Yeah, it's just the path to hell is paved with good intentions, as they say, you know?
Ordered that
Al
for a
says
while.
no good deed done.
No good deed goes unpunished.
You got all of them.
Anyway, that's, you know, I mean, not to make light of that, I mean, that's just something to always keep in, learn from lessons of the past, you know? And I mean, hopefully they'll still find remedy, because it does not sound like our representative is done with this. I mean, it sounds like he's still looking for things to protect our landowners.
Kudos to him, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and I assume that he's not alone. I'm sure there's some over in the Senate too. Anyway, the other thing is yesterday I had my Ag Steering Committee meeting for NACO, and we worked on our resolutions to push forward to Congress, and that basically gives the, like for ISAC, giving Jamie and Lucas all their marching orders. We were working on our ag marching orders, and I don't know that I could get us way past when we want to go home. But it was it's our longest meeting of the year, so I mean, it lasted a while, but just to give you a little background, let's see where it starts here. Readers, please. First one is proposed resolution to support securing key county priorities in the 2025 Farm Bill, and I can go down through there, but improve case and access flexibility in the Farm Bill programs, maintain and expand support for farmers. And there's a lot more detail with any of these. You want to read them, you're sure welcome to, especially since you guys are directly, but provide strong support for small and mid-sized producers. Maintain, expand Farm Bill conservation programs, and invest in the governing capacity of rural counties, and invest in high-speed internet access, the BEAD program, and expand opportunities for the rural economies, rural American economies. And then the next resolution. And then I signed on to that one as a co-sponsor, and there's a lot more detail to each one of them, but them are just the topics, that were in our resolution. Proposed resolution to support minimizing loss of agricultural land. I jumped on this one right away because urban sprawl, housing will continue to grow, like in the Des Moines areas, places like that, Dallas centers, whatever. But it also covered like some of these massive solar things, and it isn't trying to stop any of that, but it's trying to curtail its stretch out into top farm ground and promote more use on existing structures, like putting it on the roofs of buildings, different stuff like that. Especially when you got a large building, having architects build into, when you're building a new huge super mega bank building in Des Moines, give them some kind of a tax relief or whatever you want to call it, to build it on their roof. Some of them buildings are massive down there, and if they're building things that could actually help them save money, plus do some greater good for the community, let's see if we can work together. So them are some of the things in that one there. Just different things that were discussed in that. Proposed policy, while land use decisions are usually made at the local level, the National Association of Counties urges federal government to support state and local efforts to reduce losses of agricultural land through, and then it can go down through all that, basically what I just kind of short down. There's more to it. You guys are welcome to read it if you'd like. I could send it to you, in fact, so you can look through it. But I obviously, like I said, I co-sponsored that one as well, and I think I did most of them because I had a lot of input in all of them. So proposed resolution to increase support for the agriculture industry. Lack of legislative and financial support can have detrimental effects on the agriculture industry in the United States. The National Association of Counties urges the U.S. Congress to pass legislation to support livestock, ranching, and other farming industries commensurate with an acknowledgement that the agriculture is one of the bedrocks of the United States economy. And it goes in here. This was actually from Debbie Bell. She's a commissioner out in Colorado. And remember I was telling you about when they were trying to stop building that packing house? And it was really just a large butcher shop, but it was a fair size thing. I think it was probably something like what Monogram's got up there in Chandler, Minnesota. Pretty sizable thing for packaging, specialty, like they make jerky and stuff like that up there. Anyway, they were trying to stop it from being in their community. The government was, not the people. And so she just went on here to talk about how many dollars, $1.53 trillion of the US economy is actually farm economy, So I mean, that was seemed pretty significant, so I co-signed that one as well. So. And I'm not the only one, there's a fair number. I mean, like the first one that I brought up, it says that Pedroza did it, but I remember Terry Wilbur, that was the past chairman of this committee. And he's that farmer from up New York State that I told you about, really sharp fellow, really sharp. But proposed resolution enhancing county capacity for animal well-being, infrastructure and services. Obviously, this is a passion of mine. So it's counties nationwide are grappling with increased challenges managing animal welfare responsibilities, including pet overpopulation, inadequate shelter infrastructure, insufficient and animal cruelty. So some of this here felt like it was more PETA oriented. This is actually not one that I didn't co-sponsor because I really wasn't sure what all she was talking about. When I started talking about it, I thought it was going to be more about, making sure that we're getting all that support we need out here locally for disease control for our animals and, all of them, that it became more of a pet thing. So, I mean, made sense. I mean, I didn't say anything to halt it. I mean, I was jotting down talking points to bring up in the debate when we're down there at the conference. So we'll see how that one turns out. Proposed resolution in support of congressional action to address permitting and funding for removal of invasive species. And this is actually about some, let me see if I got the name in here. It's salt cedar, and it's a tree-like that gets along, and it's an Middle East and Asian plant that's not native to America, but it's invading along their waterways and stuff. And this is actually more in the southwest part of this country, but there was a couple of us brought up points about, well, what if we've got invasive species? I went out west in the northwest, leafy spurge and stuff like that. And to me, that's like that might even be an Asian plant that ended up in ours, and it's taking over our pasture lands. So this one here seemed pretty relevant. I don't remember if I don't think I co-sponsored this one yet because I was waiting to see what kind of comes out, for more talking points when we're at the conference. Let's see, next one, proposed resolution requesting the USDA examine the impacts of the NRCS conservation programs on development of rural counties. Issue, the United States Department of Agriculture assists county farmland preservation groups with buying conservation easements from farmers to protect prime farmland. And Kyle, I figure you'll kind of read into where we're going here. While simultaneously encouraging development in the same areas. These two actions are often at odds because federal conservation easement prevent infrastructure development by pipelines going through it, wires going through it, driveways coming off it, you know what I mean? Utilizing public funds for the purpose of making future projects less viable for both wasteful and self-defeating, is both wasteful and self-defeating. Rural communities have also the smallest number of resources to guide the confluence of development and conservation effectively. So you see what they're trying to make sure. I remember even talking to some people when I was out looking at some properties on the ground, that those that had stuff that was a prime spot, but it was in tenure, and it's just right away, oh, that's gonna be too big a hassle. And they're right, it is a big hassle. So, I mean, we're trying to make sure that kind of, let's see what we can do to fix that problem. So I think everybody probably can want that. So I co-sponsored that. That was Tammy Tinter. She's commissioner out in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, very sharp lady, super sharp. Proposed resolution for support of securing increased reimbursements to pharmacies and other healthcare providers in rural communities. This is about the pharmacy deserts, and then basically like doing the mailings and stuff. It's even like running more of our small pharmacies in our rural areas, in particular if you get out west, but even here. It's probably a challenge for some of our small pharmacies when you get away from the dentist, or some, I think like, was it Craig's wife? Didn't she have the one up there in Manila, maybe, or excuse me, Manson?
Oh, Craig Miller's wife,
Yeah.
yeah.
See, so I mean, some of them ones that are a little more rural, and, that gets me to the last one. So that, and I co-signed this one. It's a healthcare issue, so I thought that was. Anyway, there, I ate your time right up.
We talked about
One more thing.
unintended consequences. That salt cedar tree was originally introduced as a landscaping deal.
Yep.
So now it's becoming an invasive species.
An invasive species, yeah, there you go. There is more unintended
Just
consequences.
wanted to give kudos to Luis for another successful fundraiser on Friday.
I'm glad it
Um,
went over well.
It
Wish I
it was
could've
so
been there.
hot that there wasn't as many people coming through the line. Did you think, Terry, did you think it was as many people coming
No.
through? But we did, raise, around $4,624 and,
Excellent.
which is pretty good for it was a good time. So the fundraiser was successful. Thank you to Louise for all she does to bring those things forward to help
Yes,
us.
thanks, Louis. We appreciate you. We do, we really do.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, it was,
Ben,
Yes. I guess first and foremost, Tim brought up some
And
business
him.
cards with my name.
What?
Just won't give me all
You
one.
shouldn't
Oh,
say
you're
that.
official now.
yes,
Never had a business card before.
well,
Would you look at that?
I like them.
Did you frame the first one?
No, I didn't.
Ain't that impressive?
Kinda neat though. So, but, I'll
Very
stand
nice.
up. So,
I had to make my own.
Tim kind of designed those, so.
Long piece of.
Oh, I, yeah. Kevin Melvin on the back. Oh, I got all of us on there.
My dog behind it. Slide that across there. Thank you.
Well, a whole lot today, start off, update on the Vale Bridge over there, they've got pile driven in the north abutment, the north piers. All that's driven, they found good bearing on all that. I think the most they had to cut off was maybe the pile was about 4 foot, which is really good. So they got the majority of the pile all driven in and, found really good bearing, drove it all to refusal, so which is 120 pounds per, or 120 blows per foot, so that's it's pretty good, so. And, let's see, yesterday they poured the, north abutment on that, so. And from the sounds of things, there's a second crew that, started moving in, yesterday and, setting up today, to work on the south side of it in tangent with the other crew, so. Looks promising, things might move along a little faster. I'm not sure if they're there for the duration of the project or if they're just here to try and get some, get it going on the south up and south pier, pile driven and, just give them a hand while they had some open time, so. But either way, it should help move it along a little faster, so. Good to see another crew there, but, the subgrade seal coat project, they, just left a message with the gentleman there, just reaching out to him to see, make sure that we're still on for the week of the 14th, July 14th to start on that, but haven't heard any difference, so we're still planning on that. Great crew there. They finished, I believe they finished up or finishing up on O Avenue, where they're just working within the right of way there, just shaping up where we had done some grading in the back grasses there. And, they're moving out to 240th Street, south of Buck Grove, we're doing a snow barrel area on gravel road. And, got a pretty good stretch to do in that neighborhood, so that'll be a little while. That's a pretty, illegal county section there.
Pretty much a full mile.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're gonna be taking off a lot of snow barrels and wiping it off the road and cleaning it up, so it'll be good.
Yep. Bridge crew, they're replacing the safety on E Avenue. I believe they're finishing that up as well. And they're gonna move to N Avenue, another pipe to replace there. That one is a Hunger Canyon funded pipe, so it's been sitting in the yard a while, so it'd be good to get that one in and, get a little bit of reimbursement back on that one.
And Avenue and what?
Oh,
It's just past Blackie's house.
Oh,
Blackie lives. I can't remember the address, but it's just past his.
and Avenue would be,
I'd say about 170.
Sorry.
yeah, between 170th and Kenwood Highway.
Yeah,
It's close to that.
Kenny Ransom.
There,
I get where you're going.
Yeah, you go down to the red barn, big one, and there's an oak tree just past.
Oh, yeah, this county has a lot of way to go back.
I know you do. That's why it seemed impossible to bring a engineer from another part of the state. I know exactly what you guys are talking about, so. that,
I remember how I used to get my directions when I first came home from the Army there. I just go 3 miles out of town to somebody's place, and I had no idea who somebody was.
Somebody's corner, somebody's bridge.
And then they put 911 signs up and he had no idea how to give directions. Not using that anything.
yeah. But we're doing a lot of the county thing of it. Roadside crews, they're both spraying, both sprayers holding in there, so they'll continue to spray this week if I hang them up a little bit with the rain events, they'll spray when they can, but, and, towards the end of the week, they'll start falling for the 4th holiday and, get things shaped up on the pavements in that way, but. And then, this here. Gentleman from the DOT had reached out, inquiring about. They're gonna be doing that bridge replacement on Highway 59 over the UP Railroad there. They're inquiring about some temporary easement as well as a sliver of permanent easement. That'd be something that, you ought to weigh in on, certain.
I was gonna make more drop over drive or something.
What we're just looking at here. Red line, I know it's kind of faint, but the red line right here on the west side of the highway, this is facing north. But, that's our yard, the dome yard now there.
Yep.
The easement the temporary easement that they're looking at is just coming in through our lane. Having access to the back part along the highway there where they're gonna be work. It's somewhat shaded and tamed. It's not
Just for them
hard
to use while they're doing the work.
Just to have access for them to use while they're doing the construction of that
We have
project.
stuff stockpiled there currently, and so I wouldn't be, we wouldn't have to move anything.
It's a little bit, we got some small stockpiles there, they can be moved, it's more the. How much are they coming in and out and gonna be disruptive, that's something I'll wanna visit with them. You know, are we gonna be
Return back to light condition type things.
right, not so much concerned about that, but if they got a lot of activity there, we're in there too, we don't wanna. We don't wanna have to be jockeying around each other, and so if it's just to get back there, that's fine, if they're doing a whole lot of staging. And whatnot, then we're gonna have to kind of look at a little bit different kind of an agreement going on, if they're looking for a specific area where they can stage equipment and. Because like I said, and then they got a small sliver there, the highlighted in blue there. It's not much, and it's basically comprised of where it's already ditch and grass, kind of right behind our stockpiles where they're looking at acquiring some permanent easement, what they're offering for purchase price on a small, very small parcel. Permanent easement, it's, they haven't come out there with anything as far as that's concerned, but,
Why would
That's
they
what they're
need
looking
that?
for.
Why would they need that small, I mean,
the reason being, they're gonna, where the bridge is getting wider or longer for them.
okay,
The bank And they're gonna have to raise up the road because of the UP's requirements.
Okay,
And when you raise it up, their four slopes are gonna come down out a little bit further than what they own. So, and that's just to accommodate that.
what do you think they'll offer for that? What do you think they'll offer? I mean, what's your,
Less than 10,000 an acre.
I was gonna say, somewhere in
I
that
just, I
neighborhood.
just signed an easement.
I haven't,
I just sold them some ground.
we can run a harder bargain than that, can't we?
Well, they take into consideration how valuable it is as farm ground and everything. I sold them a crick. And that's what they were offering us. So.
and here we're looking at probably less than a tenth of an acre. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
All
It'll
right,
be 1,000.
it's not much that they're. asking
we won't
for.
miss it.
We're not utilizing its ditch and grass right now. It's behind where we got our piles. The temporary easement, for them to use, that's something I'm more concerned with how it's gonna affect us being able to get in and out of there. So it's something I want to discuss that a little bit more with them.
As long as they, yeah, discuss that, because if they don't stay within their temporary easement, it's a problem.
Right. And it's gonna have to be shared by the two of us. It's coming in our lane. There's only one way in, and so I don't want them to think, well, that's their lane, during the
Correct.
time of this temporary easement, and we, and us stay out of the way. It can't be that way. It's just gonna have to be a mutual, we're gonna have to work around each other, so.
As long as they're understanding of that,
What's that?
as long as they're understanding of that.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. They're just looking for a way in to get the work done. And they gotta have something formal in the way of easement to be able to do so. But, might require us bringing our piles forward a little bit, but aside from that, I'm not overly concerned about it. I just want something in writing and a good understanding of what's gonna be going on. But, when they're doing this project, I'm not for certain if this is next year.
So they asked me about it when I was talking to them, but that's how I gave them your number. I told them to get a hold of you. Paul was retired.
Yeah.
Wasn't there something about this one? Is this one 27 or it's out by the ethanol plant's 27?
Plants out in 2028, my understanding, and,
I think this one's supposed to happen next summer.
I think this
I
one's
think
next
that's
summer,
something, yeah.
That sounds right to me.
I mean, who did we give? Oh, we had the UP get an easement from us that one time when they worked on their bridge down there.
They did, yeah, but yeah. I don't know what the agreement was, I gotta pull that file out, see what kind of agreement we had going on with them, but yeah, like I said, it's something of this nature, we type up an agreement, just make sure, it's such terms. Duration of
People from down
time
south
for
are just sick
the
and
project.
tired of it.
If they're not already.
You ain't wrong.
We're taking a beat now.
All
All the
improvement,
people are trying
Yeah,
to get.
it'll be
cornered
good
up
when it's
all
done.
the
making it better.
But it is the use of our yard, it's gonna be, make sense for us and should be compensated something for these.
Yep.
I agree.
These, so, but I'll be visiting more with this gentleman, time to come, so. Just kind of want to put that out, that is being proposed, that they're proposing the possibility of obtaining some.
Works for you guys, I don't see a problem.
No,
Well, our yards, we've been utilizing it that way. It's just a big yard, we got a patch of land going there. It's a. It helps the county out, it gets work done on their end, it helps the county out, get a little bit back, kick back for renting out the yards and then in the end, we would expect them to, leave it in the same condition as what, before they start using it, and just the maintenance of it to stimulate it to be maintained, so. But yeah, I'll have to visit with this gentleman a little bit more. This came on my desk yesterday, so, but.
Do we have one of them mowers that goes up and like on an arm out there on the side of the tracks? We don't have one of them. Well, that's one we do redo L51, let's know it, not do what they did yesterday. That
did you
guy's
see
out
that
there,
disaster?
oh, guy's out there mowing with a bat wing mower. on the side of that brand new highway, throwing rocks all onto the highway, tearing up the shoulder. What the hell are you doing?
He wasn't mowing, he was leveling the rock.
Oh, God, it was terrible. Yeah, if he came up, if I came along on a bike there, I'd have been grabbed up one side and down the other, man, that would be fast.
We do have, like,
Keep
yeah,
us informed.
more,
So
the side more, the
Then
wind.
clean out before they put the gravel off.
I was saying, I think, Bernie's usually pretty, cautious of that.
Keep us informed.
Yeah.
What they do, you know.
Yep.
That's really all I've got,
Then we were gonna ask you, Paul's truck. You're gonna pick up,
yes,
you're gonna service it and you guys will,
it's
Right,
down
through the
there,
shop.
I believe.
Is it all done?
But it's down there available, they left a key in our office for whenever, guys wanna grab it, or where would you like to keep a key?
We're thinking about having it maybe parked up here on the west side of the courthouse, something like the surveyor's park maybe or something.
Keep it in
like
your
that.
office, like with you.
and yeah, we were talking about having maybe a sign out sheet or maybe even a schedule, like so if our weed commissioner says, hey, I need it 3 days a week, he can fill out a timesheet or,
And it's all like the auditor's office will use it for election stuff. We kind of want them in them specific instances to have priority access to it.
Yeah, yeah.
so I might tell,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll call Ellen after the meeting, say that you'll have a key in your office, I mean.
Yeah, it's wherever you wanna keep it, we can keep it in our office if that's where you wanna grab a key. Jack can keep one down there as a spare, just with all the other spare keys from all the other vehicles.
Yeah.
But
I just think
did-
if it's parked up here, no disrespect, that it just won't be like, oh, there's an empty vehicle, we'll take that one.
Yeah, I did, point that out to Jack yesterday, he brought it up. He took my truck to get a tire fix, he brought that up, I was like, we can't do that, Jack, this is not our pickup anymore, it's a supervisor pickup, yeah, not to be used for our own purposes, so. He's been made aware, all the guys have been made aware, I think it would be best, like you said, park it up here, that way it's just not available. And so, it's
Temptations not there.
right. Key will be in our office, but we'll leave it up here as a supervisor pickup, that's been.
Our janitor's always looking for a pickup or whatever to haul garbage to, if it's up here, it's so much easier for them, so.
And a second sheet, yeah, for whoever's using it, I think that's a great idea, you know, okay, sure, type one up if you want us to.
And I did mention to these guys what Jared had talked to me about, what I talked about with shorts. And we did call Wade Weiss and see what his policy was, and he said, nah, we don't do.
I don't like it. I'm just being flat honest. I perceive it as a part of the PPE, you know, our personal protective equipment. When you're out there, yeah, if you're sitting in a truck, you know, it's probably fine. A lot of times you guys are sitting in air conditioned vehicles where it really shouldn't matter. And you're outside of that vehicle and you're actually got work in the rocks and the dirt. I want you to have pants on. Yeah, I think that's important. I prefer to keep things the way they are. It's my personal opinion.
And like I told the guys, I said, I'll just bring it up. And, you know, we did what we do, discussed and looked into it.
Wade made a good point. He said he did allow it, but he said he had some guys that, you know, you end up with complaints and you got a guy off because he got any choice knife. And then you got, you know, the other injuries that are bigger scrapes and stuff that a pair of pants would have probably protected you from.
Like I said, it's PPE. It's part of your protective.
It isn't like you guys are doing an office job out there, you know, this is hands-on.
And there's a lot of our crew, it just simply couldn't be, the bridge crew simply couldn't wear shorts, they burn themselves on the iron beams that they're working on every day.
Yeah, well,
and,
you're right, great point.
It's you know, really it'd be the, you know, some of the truck drivers, motor air operators, I can see, but there's gonna be times when, like I said, when they're cutting their blades off, you know, I have hot, you know, metal coming up, you know, on one of those. A pair of pants on would prevent that.
I never thought about the cutting the blade, none of the torch.
You know, they make nice work slacks that are a little bit lighter than machines that are cooler if you got a job like truck drivers. So that hell out of the way. I don't get not like truck.
Yeah. You had breaks there.
But it's not
To
that
that point,
we didn't hear them and they asked, but discussed it and
I understand, the
Brought it back
weekend
up.
was miserable, last Friday was bad. I know, I feel for everybody out there working in it, but I really do think it's important that we have projects covered and just like just like it's important to have steel toe boots,
Yeah.
it's there for your protection, I think, you know, when you're wearing little pants, that if you gotta get down in the rocks and the dirt and whatnot, you're more apt to do so, you know, it's I prefer to keep things the way they are, but, if at all possible.
The other thing we did bring up earlier, Kyle talked about your gravel summit that we had, and we just want to thank you for putting that on.
I think it went well, I hope for a little better turnout, but, you know, the ones that did come there were interested, and, presenters were really good. So.
Some of it's way over my head, but
Yeah, we appreciate you doing that.
But it looked like the progression from our first gravel summit to this one, I can see progression that, you know,
What'd you think of some of the tools that they had where you put in your aggregate and, or is it still a working type deal
I'd have
or?
to kind of see how it's good for, you know, playing around, you know, knowledge or whatnot, you know, kind of, if you're good at design of a roadway, you know, granular base, you see how it's gonna perform. It's a tool, but, really when we go out there, we kind of know what we're gonna put down for road, stone, gravel and whatnot. Like I said, don't want to poo-poo any of the information that they put out there because they do, they put a lot of research behind this. This is what, the mixes that, make a better road and to have a tool like that, but every road's gonna be different, every mile of it's gonna be different, it's gonna be different times of year, and so, it's overall, general, you know, the online tools like they have, I think are good, just in comparison to, you know, different materials, but, overall, you're gonna do what you do.
We're still limited to what we can get.
And you're limited to your sources, yeah. So that right there is probably the biggest limitation out there of what you can do for a road is the cost of the materials, availability and how much you're really willing to stick there in a road, so. You know, the best road would be a paved road, but you
Yeah.
can't do that on every
No,
mile,
you
just like we couldn't do 4 inches of limestone on every mile out here, you'd just be unaffordable, so. But there's areas where it does make sense.
but the knowledge that I've received and that your office has received out of the class too, I think have made some strides to take some of these higher travel roads and see what we can do with those and make those more efficient.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the big takeaway from these is let's focus on how we're spending our money.
Well, I think one thing that
And
came,
take these roads and let's see if we can make them more efficient to where we're not spending so much money on them. It might be a, like you said, a front cost, but if we can make them last 10, 15 years, I think it's, and I think that all started because of the gravel summit, so.
Yeah, you're right.
which why we started adding 10% to the Stratford blend, you know, just to try to improve that gradation.
Yeah, and that's why we did what we did down on Banyan there and on Deloitte there. Those are highly trafficable roads. We are sticking with a disproportionate amount of resources out there year to year. And, you know, if you find that cost balance, you know, where it makes more sense to put a little more into it, do the aggregate, the stabilization of it and do a seal coat on it, and to minimize the amount of annual maintenance that you're doing and just throwing out there from year to year. You know, there's roads like that would merit, you know,
I do
really
agree.
putting forth the investment in. And I believe we've identified a few miles that I think it would benefit, like I said, the Deloitte Boulevard or Yellowstone Park Road out there that we're gonna be doing next month. That's it makes sense to.
There's a fair number of them around the county that get used a lot.
Yeah, these highly
Probably
concentrated
more of a drive one time.
feeding facilities. Yeah.
So I did get one of our local folks over in the Northwest. We got a new grader up there, I think, operator. But anyway, they made a comment about you might be pushing some of the gravel off into the ditch. I haven't had a chance to go up drive yet, but I'll go up and check it out, so it might be something to just get.
Yeah, we'll look at it.
Yeah.
It could just
It
be
could be
just what it was.
Yeah,
You don't.
I was up in that
That's why I said
area
what
every weekend. It looks like he's actually trying to pull the shoulders in. It looks a little rough up there right now, what I perceive what he's trying to do. Pull the shoulders in, and he's letting it sit on the side so the vegetation.
Maybe he's trying to
deteriorates.
kick some clumps off that got pulled up too, you don't know what they're seeing. You know, you get the grass clumps and you get, once somebody popped over the hill and friends over.
I did see something that
Where you
where
at?
I had a window and
Yeah.
like I said, I
Total.
wait for the vegetation to deteriorate and then I'm gonna bring it back in
Yeah.
or so.
That's what I've seen, what I thought was going on, but
But we can certainly take a look, make sure, don't have something funny going on.
Yeah.
It might have just caught it in the middle of the final plot.
Right. Okay, well, always take a look.
I just thought I'd bring it to your attention.
Now, I know gravel haul is going well, picked up a lot of trucks, so they're busy there. I'd say we're still into
Yeah.
August, of course, probably, that will still be doing some gravel haul, but it might not be a record year, but, they're making some really good headway, and, like I said, roads, just aren't needing as much gravel, I think we'll be getting some back in our stockpiles, which is needed, but yeah, going well there too.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming up, guys.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
At least it's not so hot today. All right.
Move on to discuss, take action. East Ridge Road Health.
Colin was in earlier, and we all looked it over, and it was pretty standard, and at least now that those payments will come regularly right to the
They
county.
all saw the lease. They said that is pretty well dictated by the federal government. You take it or leave it.
Right. Make a motion, we approve the lease.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Colin did agree that he will kind of follow up with that, make sure the payments that we haven't, that they're gonna get put into our account. So we've addressed all of that.
$392.50.
Move on to discuss, take action, resolution 25-27, transfer of funds from Treasury Department to Auditor's Department.
And it's actually an appropriation and de-appropriation, similar to the one from last week. Like I explained last week, the health insurance line in my budget, I don't know if I considered someone a single plan. I don't know what I did, but I did something. And it created a shortage. I printed a couple of reports so you could all see. I put an X by the line that shows that my department is short by just shy of 20,000. I'm sorry, thank you. Too many zeros, yeah, 2,000. And in research, I found that in this, for the same function number, I believe 9,000 is the function number. In the treasurer's budget. So if it keeps it in the same function number, de-appropriating and appropriating, and then here's my entire detail versus budget. And you can see that on this report that it's out of supplemental is where my budget ended up.
So they ended up longer and they had like treasurer's office and they had more extra funds. Well,
I don't know if they were, I mean, there was some left. So it was a perfect place.
it's
And
not
we
short
always,
them.
no, it's not. And I double checked in the report to make sure that after claims were gonna be run yesterday, that it still was plenty and would not affect them in a negative fashion. Cause then it didn't make sense to do it,
Right.
you know? So, yeah.
If Veterans Affairs is in the negative, are they gonna need to do the same thing then?
I don't know, are they in the negative?
$366.39.
Oh, okay. Maybe. We'll look at it.
The negative.
Then you, that age should be covered.
Yes, yeah, I regret that I didn't do a little bit more last week, so we wouldn't have to double up on an action. I don't like doing that.
Yes.
But yeah, I like this process because it is transparent to the public. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Dave, I think you need to sign here, Terry.
Oh, yeah,
It says
inside the
county
document.
That's
Thanks.
your
On
job.
this report, Terry, I'm just, you're showing all these as negatives, but we're only covering, a lot of these are being covered by positives within your budget. I'm guessing.
Right.
It's his best guess.
Terry would be right below you, and then some of the other ones for state, federal government, but employees.
Some of these. And some of these because they're negative. Positive. As long as you got it figured out.
We do, when we have to take it out.
The
Yeah.
reason.
Chuck helped me, review all of it and make sure we were good to go.
So if no
Oh,
further
right here.
questions or comments, I entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the resolution to transfer
Motion
funds.
by Jean. Second by Ty, it is a resolution.
It's appropriation of funds. It won't be it's not a transfer.
Oh,
It's an appropriation.
I just was reading.
It was titled, we had it titled wrong
That's okay.
on the
That's all right.
agenda, but,
Just as long
The
as we get it right
appropriation and
in my,
appropriation, now you called it?
Correct.
Yeah.
correct.
So
and who was the second? I'm
Ty.
sorry. Thanks.
just to make sure we are talking under health insurance.
Yeah.
I say 19,000, so we
Mhm.
originally, when you said just under 20,000,
Oh, maybe I was,
I just want to
was
make sure,
reflecting that number instead.
yes,
Yeah,
but the 2,000 will cover it.
yes, because this is
That's
the bottom
The
line.
bother line,
Yeah.
is what we need to cover.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ty,
Did you see this here too, where the, on drainage, there was $518?
Yeah, I think because it's, I think it's because of the fund that it is. I'll
I
check.
don't think
it.
we've ever
Oh.
had fund in drainage, have we? And, but we spent $518.
We always use the fund balance, because there is a fund balance.
Is there a fund?
Uh-huh, yeah,
Okay, that's the only question I have.
yeah.
Thank you.
no further discussion, questions, comments? Roll call, favor say aye. Kyle?
Aye.
Jean?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Jack.
I need a pickup.
Good, move on to HIPAA program renewal, discussion, take action. That's in our packet.
That is the ISAC HIPAA program with Beth Manley. It is time for renewal. Since we're a returning county, the cost will be $17.50. They provide training via webinar for employees in our county. There was a one-day program that Amy went to. There's also a multi-day virtual training with no limit on member attendance, those kind of things. So they do provide some decent training for our employees. And then up to 5 hours annually for consultation on HIPAA questions. So.
It's not a huge expense. It's,
No, it's not.
It's such an important thing that we understand what's going on, so.
because before when we were with, was it Gary Johnson?
Jones.
Jones. That was like 12,000 a year.
It was, but he actually got our plan up to snuff.
Right, and I didn't think it was
I mean,
good
you
at
know,
the time to
yeah, it was
use him to get
definitely-
us caught up.
Yeah,
They paid us to be with them for that
Right,
period of time.
and then remember we switched to Beth Manley because it's like, okay, we're caught up now, we just need to maintain.
Yep.
Do you feel like we're still that ISAC's still a good fit for that? Or you're needing more catch up?
no, I think so. Appears to be.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the HIPAA program renewal.
Which second
I have
that?
a motion, and a second by Gene. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We have a reading. On to discuss, take action on courthouse hours.
How, do you have the hours? I actually, and I see Christie in here now. I did not realize that we stopped doing services at 4 o'clock. And so as I kind of talked to people over the last couple of years, people have stopped me and told me of an experience that they had. I said, the only thing you can do is talk to the department head or the elected official. We don't really control that. But my question and the reason that I wanted to talk about it is, I don't understand why we don't do license titles after 4 o'clock, why we stop that service, even though we're open until 4:30. And the original intent of closing the courthouse at 4:30 was to give you guys time to get your work done and still get out by 5. So I just, all the people I talked to, they weren't really aware of how come we do that.
Here's my list of what we do from 4 to 4:30.
I got it.
Here's the list of what we do after 4:30.
Okay.
Why is it right that everybody else walks out the courthouse doors at 4:30, but my staff chief stays until 5 or longer?
I don't,
Here's a list of counties and when they close.
Yep.
Crawford County is not unique.
I know that.
Other counties, many of them stop title work at 4 o'clock. That's the only thing we are stopping at 4 o'clock. We are still doing lien releases. We are still doing renewals. We are still doing replacement titles. We are still adding liens, answering calls, returning phone calls, assisting with DL appointments, checking messages, emails, talking with the investigators, filling our drawers with plates and titles. And we've got all kinds of things that we need to do that we can't get done when we've got a constant flow of traffic.
it doesn't make sense to me. And I just wanted to get it out there because that is a service that we provide. And I don't understand how a person, because the person that talked to me the last time came in from Vail. They needed to get it done and they were told that that's one service. I don't know how we pick one service that we don't do anymore. It's,
Do you want us to stop all of them at 4?
if that's what you want to do, I
That's
guess.
not. I want to stop titles at 4 so that we can get everything. A simple title will take us 15 minutes. A difficult title can take up to a half an hour or more.
Okay.
I can start paying overtime. I can start doing comp time. But I don't feel like that is fiscally responsible with my budget. This
Wanted to get
works
it out
for
there so
us,
that people-
and I have not had one single person other than you voice concern. Nobody has come to me and said, we can't do this, this is ridiculous, why are you doing it, Sherry?
I've
And
had people,
I've got the times right here that shows when we did our last reports for motor vehicle for the last month. We can't even close tax until that's done, so then I can show you this. There's nights, even by closing at 4 o'clock, that we don't get our tax stuff closed until after 5, because we can't get it all done in that time frame. And it's a process.
if that's what you want to do, it's just a good thing to have it talked out in public so that people understand and that they know. Not everybody's gonna check the website before they come to the court.
So why is this being pointed at me, G?
It's not being pointed at you.
And we're gonna point this out in front of the public. Let's point out how you treated my employee on Thursday.
I was very
You were very rude.
I was, yeah, and
You were demanding, and that's not your role as a supervisor.
that was not my role. I was not acting as supervisor. I was in here as a taxpayer, as a citizen wanting to get a service provided, and it was told to me that that's a service that you don't provide after 4 o'clock. And I had no, I didn't, I was.
And
not
we've
aware of
done
that.
this for several years. This was not new.
I was told it was because of COVID.
It started when COVID, when we shut down for COVID.
And,
And then when we reopened for appointments only.
yep,
And then that wasn't working as well for us as we wanted to. So we decided to do everything else until 4 o'clock, except for the titles.
It's your
We did it
office.
Until 4:30, except for the
it's your
titles.
office, you can do as you please, but I just, wanted to figure out if that's the way that we all thought that it was going. I had no idea. That was the first time I've ever heard, other than people telling me that they couldn't get things done, and I told them to go talk to you.
So you just said it was the first you've ever heard of it, but now you're saying
No,
that.
I've heard of it, but that's the first time I've witnessed it my own self. People had stopped me, and I figured maybe there was something that they didn't have completely done, and so I just really did not
We
understand.
stopped title work at 4 o'clock so we can get all of our other responsibilities done.
Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to add?
Well, ultimately, like talking to Paul about it, if we decided to change the courthouse hours, still the autonomy of the elected offices to decide when your door's shut or not.
Well, Sherry brought up an interesting point there. She said she sees others leaving at 4:30 or before. Is that how you worded that?
Not before, no.
Okay,
No,
but
I
at
did not
4:30.
see people leaving before 4:30.
And we did our research. Gosh, this is a couple of years ago, maybe, or a year ago, a couple of years ago. At 4:30, we closed the courthouse. We're not done at 4:30.
That was my understanding.
And 5 o'clock is still the time for work. I mean, but the reason they closed the courthouse, and this was back when your mother-in-law and Grandpa Louie were on the board. Was it 76 that we found that? I mean, I'm boy, I'm shooting into the memory banks here, guys. Work with me, but the intent was so that you had time to do your filing, which back then they didn't have all these computers and stuff, so I assume a lot of times they had to make phone calls out of your office to get stuff done. And that was the intent. And I do remember we discussed it, you know, to make sure that we had that half hour that we needed. I don't know what the difference between what your paperwork or your filings for titles, like obviously that must take longer. You said it could be 15 for a good, easy one. And it could be over a half hour for others, so that makes sense. But then we also discussed that, well, the department heads at your offices, you know, and if at 4:30, if there's not that much left to do, that's kind of your prerogative what you're doing. If you can take off at 4:30, 4:45, whatever. But I think we just need to make sure that we're not saying, here's what you don't want out in the public. Now they're shutting the courthouse at 4. And that was like when you first started the conversation, that's what I thought was being said there. And
My door's open until 4:30.
Yes.
and so that's cleared up. So that's probably a good thing we had this conversation openly so that people realize. You know, not everybody in the county is watching right now, but those that are probably do talk to people.
Well, I go back and watch it too.
Do you?
Yes,
So
I do.
people go back and watch it and that'll clear that up for them. So I mean, this is actually a positive, not a negative.
It's supposed to be more of a positive.
And I never knew that. Now Natalie might know that because we do title stuff, mind you, but I didn't know that. I did it myself, so it's good to know. I mean, and it is, not everybody looks at the website. I mean, so I mean, that's, and it's hard. I mean, you don't run ads on KDSN or in the paper either. We only do titles till before 4. So this is probably a good thing that is happening. Okay,
But eight to 4:30 with a half hour lunch would be 8 hours quarter time, right?
Doesn't it say that it's closed on our website?
From noon to 1, your office.
Yeah.
That's what it said on,
No, I think driver's license closes from 11:30 to
Do
12:30.
you still have it?
I thought I gave it back to you.
I printed it off and
But
They give it to you.
I don't know.
The website can be
I don't know
updated.
what.
Yeah, my
your
bid
schedule
should be
is, but
updated, that's part of it, because if you
lunch
look at.
hours
I
are-
don't know what I don't know.
I don't
I'm
know.
just thinking that, that's 8 or 9 hour work period is.
We're short of IT professional right now, so update the website, might be a little.
You know what, Corey could do that, though.
Huh?
I would think Corey could do that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, I do. I printed it. 8 to 4, says office, I just printed it this morning. Office hours 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. Closed 11:30 to 12:30 p.m. for lunch.
Driver's license.
It's driver's
Only
license.
driver's license.
Say it that way.
I don't think it's very clear there. That's
I
why,
think if you click on your treasury, you get treasurer's department, motor vehicle department, and driver's license.
I didn't click on anything, I just.
Written testing. Oh, guys. Car drives and stuff, that's obviously CDL, that's
Yeah,
obviously, we
yeah.
want to do that best. Driver's license 8 to 4. Is that-
Driver's license 8 to 4. The state shuts us down at 4 o'clock. Driver's license is 8 to 4, yes. The store closes at 4 o'clock,
Yep.
and they continue to do their work and help us as needed. The
The
other
state
door,
closed to do that before?
yes, the other
What is that
office,
reasoning, man?
because
They
their
go home.
people close, I don't know.
They go home at 4.
They go home.
I'd be my guess.
I'm just
Yeah, I don't.
inquiring,
Yeah.
not saying anybody's at fault. here.
No, that was all the same, that's been the same since I've been here.
But it says office hours at the top, 8 to 4, Monday through Friday,
This thing.
but that's not the whole office.
It's driver's
I
license.
think they should update that, just why I printed it off, so we can get the true hours of what it is.
You know, I do think I remember now they saying something one time, but it's because I came in, I needed a trailer. Hey, run this title over, I said, we could use that trailer for me. She didn't get her done. I couldn't be sure, I do remember that, now that I'm reading through it.
I think the point
We
that,
tell people at the counter when they come in, if they're coming back, just remember, we don't just have to look after work. Tell them that over and over
I
again.
ran back in because we were gonna try to use that vehicle in the morning, and there was no one else in the office. We've already done all of the little details to it. It was 4:05, and I was told, can't do it, and I just thought, there's
I
nobody
think it
else.
was 4:10 or
It's
4:15.
4:05.
I would look at the video.
You can look at the video.
I did.
And the video.
I looked at the video footage.
Anything else to add?
Here's my point was that that's an 8 hour work period, 8 to 4:30 with a half hour lunch. I just, so if people are going home at 4:30, if they have to take an hour lunch, they put in their 8 hours.
Okay,
My point.
yep, good point.
Says it's closed though, and I think that's just.
Driver's license, it says closed.
Okay, all right.
You guys got stuff on the website.
Drivers. 11:30 to 12:30, this doesn't specify that as driver's license. It says driver's license 8 to 4. It just probably needs to be cleaned up.
Maybe. That's why I brought it up to talk about, so that we're all on the same page of what the hours are and what services they're providing.
That's just her office, I mean, what,
Yeah, absolutely.
like Terry says that here at 4:30
Absolutely.
every
They
day.
could, they could close at 3 if they wanted to, but I just think for
No, I
the
don't think anybody.
good of the general public, they should know what services and what we don't do after a certain time. That's all I'm saying.
And everybody knows that the office that has the most interaction with the public is the treasurer's office, that's why it gets brought up.
You know that.
And they pick on you guys in particular, you guys just have the most across the counter. Traffic. Sarah gets a fair amount, but I've never ever heard anybody, I mean, they're here till 4:30, every time I've left here at 4:30, there's always at least 2 people in there.
Well, that motor vehicle title or 8 to 4. Motor vehicle 8 to 30, registration 8 to 4:15.
Driver's license, 8 to 4, motor vehicles up here on the side.
Yeah, I must have, I clicked on the right. I still, I think maybe it'd be a nice time to maybe do a press release so that the average person would know that. I just did not. And I would not think to look at the website before I go into town to get a service provided. But it is what it is. Just. All right, we've got that out there. We now know, and that's the way it is. So people on Zoom will know also. So, right. No action taken.
We do have Colin here. We can move on to discussion of potential animal control ordinance.
And I asked the sheriff to be here as well, because
All right.
I imagine that any enforcement of the ordinance would be by our esteemed sheriff.
Great.
So I resent this morning a revised copy. I sent something out over the weekend, and then I worked on it again, and I brought a revised copy for everybody. Terry, that's yours.
Thank you.
And so this is what we have. It is a animal ordinance, not simply a dog at large ordinance. It covers animal hoarding. It covers animal abandonment. And it covers, of course, dogs at large as well. Or really any animal at large, not just a dog at large.
I just thought I heard a phone. That's what
My phone, I'm kind of,
making sure it wasn't mine.
no, I'm kind of everywhere today, so it might be my.
Sorry, go ahead.
I used as models other counties' ordinances. I looked into,
I hope we don't get violence in Tiger.
Bears.
yeah, right. Just
We used to
hot,
have a fair in Crawford County.
I know we have one over. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in charge.
well, so here's section 6.
Sheldon Ave.
Is the prohibition. You know, keeping a dangerous or vicious animal is prohibited, and that's it. You can't. So the list of animals listed are automatically considered dangerous. So that list under paragraph 5, essentially that's a prohibition on those animals. There is a provision for variances in section 11. So if someone wanted a bear, they could come plead their case to the board, and the board would have the reserve the right to make an exception for people to house these animals. I think the most likely scenario for a variance would be some kind of guard dog. Because they could be, under this ordinance, could be classified as a vicious dog. But if they have it for guarding purposes, maybe they would want to come seek an ordinance. A variation. One thing to note. In paragraph 5, listing out dangerous animals, subsection L. I've included pit bulls. Other counties have done the same. It's not language I made up on my own. It's been borrowed, I think, from Story County. And while this could result in someone saying you can't do that, I did a little bit of research, and, by and large, pit bull breed bans are typically upheld. There have been times in the past where they've been challenged and won, but I think since then, the language of the crafting, and the importance of the ordinance, has kind of won out in the courts. So that could also be a variance people would want to see. It actually, makes me think about any owners of pit bull breeds currently. I mean, if this ordinance passes, there's no grandfather clause unless the board wants to entertain one. So if anyone has a pit breed currently, if this ordinance passes, they would just start off in violation. So I don't know if you want to consider some kind of grandfather clause or a grace period. That would be up to you.
Darn thing is the pit bulls I know is one of the most gentlest, sweetest dogs.
I know.
Or you don't have to have this provision if you don't want it at all. I mean, I could just strike it if the board has
I kinda
no
thought you
appetite
had
for it.
Spelled out without any specifics, pretty good prior to that.
Because this ordinance, even without subsection L that specifically identifies pit breeds, any dog, including a pit bull, could become prohibited if it acts in a manner that's in violation, if it bites or attacks.
Like it was spelled out.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
spelled out
just because-
Specifically naming a breed.
Yeah, I mean, a pit that would violate the ordinance otherwise by attacking or maiming would be in violation anyway, just like any other dog that would attack.
Yeah, I think it'd be better, because I mean, a German Shepherd is a taught trained guard dog.
Yeah, but that might be more German shepherds in it, but.
Can be- I mean,
So it can-
any of the
still
big
covers
dogs,
it all.
Yeah,
you know.
but this is a discuss item, so really this is just to bring it, keep
Chad
the
had
ball rolling
A
on it.
Labrador that I used to say, lock up if I'm coming out, otherwise I'm not even gonna load the cow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it.
I could say, I would think we could strike that,
Okay.
still have all the dogs underneath this because they are, the ones that are vicious or
Okay, L will be struck.
acting unprovoked.
So
it might be better.
is it better, animals found in violation may be impounded? Should it be shall?
That's for you guys to decide, and that's why I wanted the sheriff here.
Yeah, Brooke, what do you think? What the difference there? Because May says, well, we can decide if we want to or not. Shall doesn't, my understanding would be the dog's in violation, it will be impounded, not, well, this is your first time, we're gonna give, that's where that they, and it doesn't say you have to.
It's discretion on the enforcer, and the enforcer would be the
That's
sheriff's department.
And it brings up, what I brought up before, us transporting these animals to a vet place. I mean, some of the vehicles we can, some of them we can't. And it just depends on the market. So there's no room in Tahoe, there's no room in Durangos. That's really, if they have maybe a kennel in the back, we could haul them. But with the way our vehicles are set up, we have a quarter cage or a half a cage in there. Most of the time, right behind the drivers, we have our equipment. The cage that we haul the prisoners in, if it's a large dog is something you can't throw them in the back of the top of. So I think it needs to be a discretion of ours. Doesn't mean that we can't find them yet. It just means we may not be able to count them.
So,
Would you though, Roger, I just hate to not, if a dog did attack, not impound it just because we didn't have the capabilities in a vehicle. Where you could send somebody else later that did have the capabilities.
Which we could.
Call in for support.
Or, most of the time when if we have the owners or if the dog does bite somebody in the small towns, we'll have the owner bring the dog in. So that's also an option as well.
Okay.
So,
but in the instance that, but we've been kind of talking about, that's been the issue. The dogs have gone out and violently killed animals, we locate them, we find them. And even though we have this ordinance, even if it says shall or may, if we're not able or capable of bringing them in, then once again, we've gone to all of this time and work, and we really have not fixed the problem because we can't impound the dog. We can't bring the dog in because we don't have the answer of how we're gonna do that. Am I reading more into that? That's,
we also have to take into consideration the impound here only houses so many dogs.
Right.
And most of the time they're full.
right,
So what do we do with them?
right.
So, I mean, that's the only place where you can keep them, unless we go outside the county,
I'm understanding all of that, so as I read this, it sounds fabulous. This dog has been found in violation, we have the authority to impound them, but we, number one, don't have a vehicle to bring them into, and once we get them into town, we might not have a place to put them. So I always, just making more laws that it gives us the teeth, but once again, we're gonna be out there, dog in hand. Gonna have to probably let them go.
Well, that would be in particular to the dog, yes. I mean, that would be a logistical issue for the dog. The ordinance doesn't count for pursuing violation against the owner, either civil or criminal. And so it doesn't solve the immediate problem with dog running loose, you're right, Gene, but that's not to say that the ordinance is toothless if we don't have kennels or places to go because the owners will still get cited.
Okay. I think it's our effort to maybe get those dogs that have tasted blood and are out.
It could be a case by case basis too. I mean, if it's attacking animals, by all means, we'll do our best to take it in.
Roger, would you also be able to, if pounds full, you know, there's a number of vet clinics that house dogs.
They do, but they're gonna want a contract.
And they're not gonna want money.
So, I know with Manila, Manning has signed a year contract.
Didn't it say in here that that cost would be at the
To the
owner's
owner.
expense?
For the owner.
Yeah.
Yes.
We saw how we get money out of owners.
But Manila also, so it's just a big contract that, and Manila pays Manning a fee each year to keep that spot, basically. But then if there's a dog that's impounded, yes, it is the owner's responsibility.
Is that at Rexham's?
Yes.
Yep. How, in section 12 with the penalties of $750, first offense with $1,000,
Yep.
is that automatically enforced or?
So when I first did my
how do you
research,
collect?
okay, so my first draft that I sent out envisioned a civil infraction that was cited much like if a city had a tall grass ordinance, right? But one of the things I changed it this morning is I dug into 331, 307 that covers infractions, civil infractions. And so it is a pursued kind of like a small claims case. It is in front of the magistrate as it was, like, as if it was a small claims. If the county's successful in, the burden of proof is lower than a criminal case, so under section 12, the county has the option to pursue a violation as a simple misdemeanor or as a civil infraction. Some counties pursue only the criminal, simple misdemeanor side, and some counties pursue only the infraction side. The differences are, and this is another choice I wanted to put to the board. It's written right now as an either or. You don't have to have it as either or, you can pick one or the other. And here's are the differences. A simple misdemeanor is a criminal penalty, it's a criminal act. The burden of proof to prove a violation is beyond a reasonable doubt. And is pursued like any other simple misdemeanor criminal offense in the county. The difference is in the penalty. The penalties for simple misdemeanors go up to 1,100, 1,300, Martha?
Simple misdemeanor, usually 300.
But the max,
Oh, the max,
around 1,100, something like that.
right, it's 105, so it'd be 1,050.
Yeah, 105 is the minimum fine, and there's a range, $105 to like $1,100. Would be the maximum range, but also with the criminal offense, there's possible jail time, up to 30 days. So with this simple misdemeanor option, there is the possibility that the owner would go to jail. Now, that's not up to us, it's still go in front of a judge, and the judge would decide whether or not the owner would go to jail. The other thing with simple misdemeanors is the Iowa Supreme Court has decided years ago that even with infractions in county or city infractions with ordinances, if there's a potential for jail time, there's a requirement that people who can't afford an attorney or provide an attorney. I have an inquiry out as to whether or not the state public defender's office would cover court-appointed attorneys for county infractions. If not, then the county would have to have a bucket of money to provide for court-appointed attorneys for a violation as a criminal offense, the ordinance. Now, just like on the state side, though, what we tell people is your attorney isn't free, you just don't have to pay up front and it's at a reduced rate. And so that would be the same for the county. If the county had to provide a bucket of money for pursuing it as a criminal matter, then there's a procedure to reimburse legal fees. And the rate is capped. It's just the defendant doesn't have to pay up front, and they don't have to pay for the private attorney rate, which is significantly higher than the court-appointed rate. I just don't have the definitive answer on that as I sit here today. Okay, civil infractions, they're punishable by up to $750 and up to $1,000. It doesn't have to be those numbers. Those are just the maximums for infractions. Under the code, it can't be for the first offense over 750, and it can't be over 1,000 for repeat offenses. The board would have to decide what actual numbers they would want. Maybe they want to keep it at the maximum for each one. And maybe not. And again, civil infractions do go in front of the court. The burden of proof is a lot lower. It's clear and convincing evidence instead of beyond a reasonable doubt, which means it's just easier for the county to carry its burden to find people guilty. Because it's not a criminal conviction and there's no jail time that can result from a civil infraction. So,
I guess I'm fine with leaving them where they're at.
and or if it's either or, then we pursue it
Either or.
as at our
Can it be
discretion.
both?
So if it's like
Can't be
somebody
both.
that has multiple, oh, we can't have both of
No,
them?
no, we can't pursue a civil infraction and the criminal at the same time on the same person.
But we can do one or the other, like if there's somebody that has repeat
Yeah,
offenses.
we can do the first one or two as a civil infraction, and if it goes 3, 4, 5, we can pursue the 3, 4, 5 as a criminal offense.
You found it right. So we really don't all that often get multiple. It's just the once in a while thing.
The
where it's-
incident that brought this up
Is a multiple.
That doesn't happen very much.
Is that,
That's good.
To give you a little bit of teeth would be helpful in these once in a blue moon incidents. I mean, because every farm dog's out there rolling across the street and they smelled something over there, or a coyote done his duty across the street or something, you know. But, and even you get into the rural housing areas that are out on the county, I mean, some people walk their dogs and they're on their, you know, not on a leash. And I don't know, we don't really get any complaints about that. The only time you ever hear any complaints is in cities.
Right.
Which is a little different, you know, obviously you got that too, but that's not under our jurisdiction.
does this, the cases we've had in the past that have been ongoing, let's say next week we pass this, which will be a few revisions. Is that retroactively?
No.
So
Forward looking.
forward.
Yep.
Okay.
And just some other kind of particulars of this ordinance, section 5 is a damage and interference clause that I came across and I thought it was good. I mean, it kind of mirrors what a dog at large would be, but it just outlines you can't even interfere with private or public property. Like if the dog is at large and keeping you from like getting into your house or getting in your car, it just covers that scenario, even though the general dog at large would probably also cover that, so it's a little bit duplicative. Section 6, in addition to prohibition, includes any person from causing a dog to be at large, like if it's kenneled otherwise. That is some protection for owners who are responsible and have like a dog cage in their yard, but their neighbor comes or some person comes along and releases it, then the releaser would be culpable and not the owner. Section 7 allows for the county to designate an animal as a vicious animal if it has a history of biting and attacking. And again, section 9 has an abandonment clause. I came across this in another county and I wanted to include it to give you the option. But it does kind of put the county in a babysitter role. I don't know if the county wants to police like the transfer and ownership of dogs. I mean, it kind of envisions a scenario where you have a bunch of farm cats, or someone just puts a box of kittens at the side of the road, or it's just kind of trying to put a lid on that, just like irresponsible breeding. But again, it's just one more thing for the county to manage. And that'd be up to you if you want to keep that provision or not.
You say farm cats, huh?
No, it wouldn't,
Wasting that, they're always in transit between.
right,
I got some kittens, who wants them?
it wouldn't necessarily just prohibit having farm cats. Like if you have a farm and you have cats on the farm, that's not the issue, it's the abandonment. It's like you can't knowingly just
abandoned.
take a bucket of cats and just put them somewhere else.
A bucket of cat.
That's how people transfer cats, right? Buckets.
Hey, I got one on four,
Basket.
dogs at large. It says, I mean, not, most farm dogs aren't in a fence, some are, but very few. Most of them are actually there to guard the place for livestock. And some of them, that's their express job is to be with a herd. To roam with the herd, they anadolas or whatever the hell they call them, they're herd dogs. So they're not necessarily, I'd wanna make sure that I am never gonna put a farm dog on a chain so the coyote's got lunch on a stick.
Sure.
I read this yesterday. Cause I had that same question, but then. I think if you read number 3, help explain,
In section 2,
Yeah.
number 3.
I had to read that a couple times to be considered at large off the owner's property and not under the control.
Not under control.
So yeah, if that dog is roaming free on your own property,
It's good.
it's good.
It's your dog, he's on your property,
Yep.
it's good.
It's not at large.
But once Bob crosses the road and is in Kelm's property and goes down there and starts stirring, even though he's fine on, he's out. He stepped out of his safe play area. He's now becoming that large dog.
And if you're in
That's how I took it.
if you're in the county and your neighbors, if you're fine with your neighbor's dog being on your property because it's friendly and your kids like it, and it's not gonna be reported, so it's not gonna be an issue.
Great.
Great fact. I just don't want them to have to go, oh, whose dog is that? Nobody's complaining.
Right, no one's complaining, I mean,
Sure.
Unless Ryder's gonna put in extra hours roaming the county looking for dogs.
Yeah.
Well, that was the only thing I was
No,
worried
I read that a couple.
is making any kind of a mandate.
and if you want the language kind of cleaned up and more specific, I can kind of tinker with that too.
I think it covers just about everything.
My dog.
Well,
Always across the road.
a farm dog don't know that the fence line
Right.
is meant for him to stop at. You know, I mean, and if there's a scent that draws him across the street, I mean, that happens.
Yep.
I watch my little dog do it all the time, and she ain't gonna hurt anybody, but she's out in the county.
A lot of farm
very
dogs know
vicious,
pretty
so.
well, know what home base
Yeah.
is.
And they don't wander far from home.
Might follow you on a tractor to a new field.
Well, that happens.
That'll chase a squirrel.
But that's my point, is I just don't wanna get something to where somebody can use it against their neighbor because they got an axe to grind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So does number 4 need to be revamped then, take out that everybody leash?
Yeah, and the leash part's that bothers me. I mean, the only time you'll see maybe a leash, if you look at like the housing area that's on the county, that's out in the county down here, or even like where Denison ends up there. I mean, if you get complaints,
I'm sure farm dogs, they don't put on no leashes.
yeah, no.
I mean, the one in question does.
So section 4 does allow for, or if the dog is obedient to a responsible person's commands and within a reasonable distance to that person also have to have possession or access to a leash or lead. So it kind of accounts for those well-behaved dogs that respond to their owner.
Interestingly enough, this weekend when or last week, actually, when I was out on the road, I take my little beaver, or not beaver, but an Aussie Shepherd Crawford. Anyway, she's not very big. But I always have her on leash. I know she'll come to me, but I don't know how she'll act around other dogs. And this guy's out, and his dog's out on leash walking in the grass, and by the time I got up to take mine out to do her business, he'd let his off the leash and the one comes running over to visit with her. And he can't get her to stop. So that was what made me think about some of this stuff when I was reading through it. Them kind of things do happen. I didn't get worked up, so my dog didn't get worked up, and that dog was just curious. That kind of stuff happens in our housing areas, I'm sure, that are out on the county. So as long as there's no complaint.
Yeah, and if there's no complaint, everyone's okay, then.
So under section 7, Colin, were we talking just one bite? Section Colin, keep vicious? Most ordinances have at least 2 bites.
Good point.
will even attempt to bite, my,
Yeah, the other ordinance said it actually has to be a bite or scratch.
because attempt to bite, with Broski, if you come to my house, he will get real close to you and, I can't promise, because he's protecting, and so that would be an attempt, and so if somebody came to my house and he came right up.
That was
to
on your property.
It's on your.
That's not on my property, good clip there.
I mean, you can read how the
Trying
county
to
wants
think
it.
of every,
The ordinances that I kind of tried to mirror, I mean, stole this language, I was flat out. I mean, borrowed, I think this was Story County's definition. But if you want it to read differently, it certainly can.
I just,
There is a provision
I think attempt to bite,
But if we come to
under,
somebody else's property, I don't want a dog trying to bite me.
no, I don't either, just
And
try.
that's what I think to the core of it is dogs on other people's
Right.
property causing problems.
Right. I think it's got just about every scenario.
so section 7 kind of allows the last sentence, an animal or dog that bites or attacks a person or domestic animal may be deemed dangerous or a vicious animal. So even in those kind of in-between cases, there's some discretion built in that if there's a history or a tendency that may not otherwise fit the definitions that are in this ordinance, there's some discretion baked in to allow, well, the sheriff to kind of go ahead and just deem that dog dangerous.
Yeah.
But if the board wants some kind of grace built in, a 2-bite rule or something, or a 1-bite rule, we can do that. Because the prohibition is a blanket. Once they're dangerous or vicious, you can't have them anymore.
Well, and that's a great point. I mean, let's just imagine that you're out in your yard. No matter where you're at, and a strange dog, not your dog, would come up to you and get out of here. A lot of times it's an instant reflex. Well, you just attacked that dog, so that dog's gonna defend itself. So was it really the dog attacking you, or were you attacking the dog?
Subsection N covers that.
Thank you.
What's the other option?
Section 2's number N, or letter N.
The first bite, you don't know that dog is vicious until it bites somebody. So then you don't have no way to correct it. So the 2-bite rule, like it maybe, we had a corgi that just like people with glasses. We didn't know that till it bit the neighbor with glasses. I mean, it didn't hurt him, nothing, but
Sure.
it just took after the neighbor with glasses. Then we started noticing that he don't like people with glasses. So then we knew how to correct that.
And there's always discretion. So if someone calls in a dog, the enforcer, the sheriff, or the deputy, there's always discretion. If the scenario is kind of odd, law enforcement would always reserve the right to say, we'll just take better precautions in the future, but if we're called back here again, then we're gonna have to cite you.
Correct.
I think that would be good. What worries about the 2-bite rule, let's say a dog does bite someone. And then we didn't do nothing, and then they really
Yeah.
hurt
that-
somebody, well, you knew about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, that's a good point.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, there's always gotta be the discretion involved, I get that.
And then in the way that's written up, the discussion
Actually,
isn't.
every question that I've asked, you had a good answer.
Good
The only
point.
thing I would,
Well, that's,
under section 12, I mean, do we wanna, the enforcement, do we wanna add a line that states that may have to, oh, I don't know, pay the owner, I mean, if they come in and slaughter a fat steer or something like, right now, that's a couple $1,000 down the drain, and that guy's got to stomach that cost.
Well, even the chickens, I don't wanna do
Or
one
the
of
chickens
things
or whatever, you know.
Eggs and potential eggs in the future, I don't like for sure paying for that, but to pay for your loss of cause.
But should there be a
Loss.
reimbursement or something if it,
I thought there was, I remember doing a reimbursement clause, I just need to find it.
You wanna add in their vaccinations?
I thought about that, Roger, like once it's impounded, it can't be released until it's up to date. I can add that, I thought about it.
I think we should,
Okay.
Enforcement penalty.
I really do.
Liability.
13.
Okay.
No?
13 would be for the vaccinations.
Oh, okay. Well, it says, oh. I saw the word costs, so. That's all I saw.
I mean, section 10 covers liability. That nothing in here would limit the civil liability otherwise that a person could take against the owner. But I thought I remember typing out. Maybe I took it out. I might have taken it out. It was a strict liability claim. But under section 12, I can include damages.
Oh,
That'd be good.
Okay.
yeah, very good for
And I'll add vaccinations to section 13.
Can you make that kind of direct though, because I don't want somebody trying to say, okay, you know, let's just say there was a pack of dogs down the street and they took down a cat, and that was a little heifer calf, and all the calves that she could be having in her life. We don't even know what you're gonna do with that calf.
Yeah, it'll be, I mean, that would be more of a civil claim that the owner could say, well, I've lost all these generations of calves, and they could go seek a private remedy. Nothing would ever stop a person from seeking a private action against somebody.
And
But
you got
for
that
the-
road here, I see.
Yeah, but for damages on this section, yeah, it'll just be damages for like the immediate damages.
Thank you. Yeah, I always thought that was terrible when we'd run over or something in Germany, we're out on the tour, you run over a chicken. You're gonna pay for eggs for 10 years, or, you know, just goofy stuff that would, I mean, they just run over a tree. That tree dropped nuts, that's more trees. They had all kinds of trees. Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of gives,
Okay, I'll incorporate these changes and I'll send it back out. The next time, because you have to do certain readings and then publications, so we're still at least a month away from this being finalized, but I'll get this, maybe next time to discuss and take action. And if it's still not ready, or if we see something, we can always just table the action part and reset it. Okay.
sounds
Good progress.
Oh, good.
You talked about being in contact with Randy, do you want? Do that, we don't need to
I
do
will,
that.
I will. Still have its number. I will.
Okay, I got some direction. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Well, are you sticking around?
Yep, I'm sticking
I'll
around.
move into citizens input. Anybody on Zoom?
Thank you.
Hearing none?
That
Yeah,
out
we'll take-
For the actual body.
Take a quick break before closed session.
Okay, yes, I can.
Putting out the jail last night, that one, that one needs to deal with them. But
Jackson,
other than that,
want to come in.
everything else since then, so maybe you guys.
I think I made like 20 pounds.